Hey, and welcome back to my Stardew Valley min-max guide using the Skull Cavern method. Today is the day. I know I said that last video, but today is actually the day. We have the Skull Cavern key, we have the bus fixed, and it's time to do our first Skull Cavern run. So unfortunately, since it is our first day going to the desert, we need to wait for Pam, which kind of sucks because she doesn't leave her house till about 8:40, and it takes a little while to walk over to the bus stop. But we can speed that up by blocking her path. And since we have a few minutes, we're going to need food for energy and health, especially early on in these Skull Cavern runs. The serpents hit super hard. Once we get deep, the iridium bats hit hard, and I'm gonna always try and keep my health above 50%. So these extra salmon berries, I mean, they're not the best, right? They don't heal for a lot, but we do have a lot. We have a high stack of them, right? We have 72, so we'll take it for now. Eventually, we'll be switching to salads that we'll buy from Gus. You get those for like $2.20 a pop, and it's so worth it. So it's $9.50, and we're gonna get those warp totems to the desert, so we don't have to wait for Pam. I'll always keep at least one in my inventory, on my farm, right? So I can always get there. And I'm gonna forage the cactus fruits. I'm not gonna forage the coconuts because cactus are good energy and health. Those will kind of be my big heals today. Alright, so we want to get that coal. And one of the goals of today is to find a prismatic shard so we can upgrade the sword. And some of the things that I do here, the ghosts are very annoying, so I generally take care of those. You can kind of just dance around these mummies and not get hit too much. If I did have a lot of bombs and I was stronger at this point with the fighter profession for additional damage, eventually I think it's the brute profession for even more damage, plus the galaxy sword, then I would try and round all of those mummies up and knock them out at the same time, then place a bomb so I could collect the solar essences that they drop. So I'm hitting the shiny gray rocks because they're only one hit. I'm hitting any ore, and I'm also hitting gems because they take 2 hits, but at least you get something for it, whereas these other ones, the other brown rocks, you don't. So the serpents are a pain. I always try and maneuver myself to put them in the same line. And I got a spicy eel, which will speed me up, give me added luck. And there we go. That's level 4 of Skull Cavern. The prismatic shard drops for us. It drops for us early, which is perfect. Now, I have 2 choices here. I could keep going, keep the run alive, right? Since I already did 4 levels, which I do opt to do. Alternatively, since I know I'm not going to get very far on day 1 anyway, I'm actually thinking that I could have left the Skull Cavern, get the galaxy sword at the altar, and then go back in. I'm not sure how that would have affected my loot. I guess I'll never know because I opted not to do it, but it is what it is. You'll see, I get better at this over time, but I'm still, at this point, very rusty with Skull Cavern dives. So those serpents are hitting me a lot more than what I want them to. And there's a Mystic Stone. It's something like a 25% chance to drop a prismatic shard. That serpent drop is like 0.1%. It's very rare. It could be 1%, 0.1, 0.2, something like that. We'll keep our health up. And when I'm going through these runs, if I see an armored bug, I already know that even if I kill all of the enemies on the floor, I can never get the percentage increase for a ladder to spawn. Basically, if you can kill all the enemies on a floor, there's a plus 4% chance of a ladder spawning. But the armored bugs can't be killed, so it's kind of a moot point. Also, when I'm hitting rocks, as soon as I see a ladder, or when I start bombing, as soon as I see a ladder, I'll take it. I'm really hoping to find shafts. Every time a ladder spawns from a rock, there is a 1 in 5 chance of it being a shaft, and those shafts can take you down 3 to 15 levels. The further they take you down, the more damage it does to you, but it will never kill you. So at worst, it will always leave you at 1 health, and then you can just heal back up. It's very rare. Like you would have to be very unlucky to jump into a shaft and then say like a serpent was right there and you had 1 health. Usually you have enough time to get into your journal and pause and, prep to eat food quickly. The serpents at this point, because I'm only at +1 speed and not +2, are so fast that positioning and killing them is your best option. Here's a nice little node of iridium ore. And I don't think I'm doing it properly here. I notice I'm missing a lot of my swings. I'll not swing in front of myself, and that's because I'm not keeping my cursor and my direction the right way. So try practicing that. Make sure, you're looking and your cursor is in front of you. And yeah, today is a good humor luck day from the fortune teller. So not the best luck, but basically your luck can swing from, negative 1% or 2% to, I think is it 0 to 0.7% increase for a good humor luck, which is what I have today. And then 0.7 to 1% for a best luck, and also vice versa. So you can get, negative 0.7 on a displeased day. The luck matters because of the chances of finding a ladder are increased. And there's a ladder that already spawned. I think I hit it down there and I didn't notice it. That's why nothing was spawning before. Now, right now we have our first spiral level. I will opt to just build a staircase. As I've mentioned before, spiral levels and infested floors I'm not even going to fool with. And wow, it's already midnight, so level 26 at midnight is not a good run, but it's early on. Hi, Bruce. That's my cat yelling at me. I think he wants attention. Once we get a little more accustomed, we get the galaxy sword and, these other things that I'm talking about, like the professions from combat leveling. We're trying to go deep, and we're going to be using a lot of bombs to do that. Usually the goal every day is 100 plus, level 100 plus. So I will also mention, it doesn't happen very often, but if there's 2 ladders spawned on a given floor, then there's no point in trying to break rocks because level 3 farming, level 3 combat, level 6 mining. Sorry, I just wanted to go through that real quick. But with 2 ladders spawned, another one will not spawn from rocks, so that's something good to know. And after level 10, there's a chance of treasure chest levels. When you get those, I also like to hit the rocks that are around the treasure chest because there's usually not many, and it's an added, chance of spawning a shaft instead of a ladder. So 3 to 15 levels versus just a single level for the ladder. It's worth it just to, try for it. So we do have 3 rubies and 2 diamonds. We can trade those to the desert trader for triple shot espresso and spicy eel. And there it is, Galaxy Sword. That'll help out a lot. I still want the profession perks for added damage, but at least this is a start. And you know it feels good when you, as soon as you go into the Skull Cavern and the first rock you hit spawns a ladder. That's always a good feeling. Right now I'm using cherry bombs. I go back and forth on whether you should be using bombs and cherry bombs. The problem is that they cost copper or silver ore respectively, and more importantly, they both cost coal. And coal's one of those bottlenecks that you'll run into. I have to end up later on buying a lot of coal. And I kind of wonder, like, could I have avoided that had I not used so many bombs? But the trade-off is, if you don't get as deep in the mines, then it's not going to be as profitable. Iridium ore doesn't start spawning more until about level 50. So, you know, days where if I don't even hit level 50, I'm losing out on a lot of potential profit. Letting my health go down a little too low. And then eating a million salmon berries to get it back up. That's kind of par for the course. I also want to mention that if you walk into the Skull Cavern and it's a bad level, there's not a lot of rocks, it's a spiral level, or it's an infested level, my recommendation is to just walk out, because the floor layouts are randomly generated, so you will get once you walk back in, you'll get a new floor layout. I'm not a huge fan of these types of floors. The rocks are kind of scattered, or they're scattered and they're not bunched well. When you're bombing, you definitely want to find those large groups of rocks. And also with these slimes, I always try and hit them up into a wall or up into a rock so they don't have an opportunity to start hitting you. Once they get a hit off and you're slowed down, it can really snowball and you can take a lot of damage. So another mechanic I can mention about the Skull Cavern and spawning ladders. Here's another spiral floor that I'm just going to ignore. Another mechanic I want to talk about is the percentage increase for every rock that you get rid of on the floor. Basically, you have an increased percent chance of a ladder with fewer rocks on the floor. So for example, let's say there were 20 rocks and you hit 15 of them and you still don't have a ladder. You will now have a 1 divided by 5 rock chance. So it's a 20% chance. That will be an increase, so that will be added to your chance of a ladder spawning. Basically, that's there because eventually, once you get, even on the worst luck day, once you get down, here's one of our first shafts, and we fell 5 levels. But once you get down to the last rock on the floor, a ladder has to spawn. So that kind of guarantees that, 1 divided by 1, there's going to be a 100% chance added. It's 2:30 right now, and we're on 18. That iridium ore is spawning early. They usually don't spawn on such low levels. So if you saw what I did, I actually swung my sword at it first, and that's because it could have been an iridium crab. And usually when you see iridium on low floors like this, here's me blowing up the mummies like I told you about. So if you swing your sword first, you'll get that kind of armor clink. There's another shaft. That was a good shaft, and I'm now down to 29. But you'll hear that armor clink and a 0, saying you did 0 damage will pop up. It's a good way just to check that, the iridium that you're about to hit is actually iridium and not a crab. Even if it is a crab, I switch to my pickaxe, and I'm just ready to switch very quickly to my sword and take it out because they do drop. Crab cakes are good, not for mining, but for chores around the farm with +1 speed. They last a very long time. I also noticed another mistake I made on this, the beginning of this first floor. As soon as I got down the ladder, I started eating salmon berries to regenerate health. But if you misclick and click on that ladder while you're trying to eat, it will ask you, do you want to exit the Skull Cavern? Of course you don't. But when you're playing fast and you're not paying attention, like I've done on level 90 plus, you will exit the Skull Cavern by accident. So my recommendation, if you need to eat, always step off the ladder a couple just so you don't run into that. I mean, I think I have video of myself doing that. Maybe I'll post it at some point. I was crushed. It was just one of those runs that was so great. And like I told you guys before, if I don't do very well on a given day, especially with Skull Cavern runs because they're so much fun for me, I don't mind resetting. I believe that first day I actually did reset. I didn't reset this day, I don't believe, but I did reset the first day we watched, the 17th, because I died to a serpent. So that's a quick exit out of the game. But I'm also not trying to make this, the most perfect run in the world. I'm not going to spend days on a single, real life days on a single day just to get it as perfect as possible. Once I get something that I'm satisfied enough with, I'll move on. So we got 830, and now we're at level 50. We're not quite strong enough to take on the iridium bats very easily. Later on in runs, I love to get down to level 50 as fast as possible and fight the bats because they can drop tons of good stuff, specifically batteries too. They also drop solar essences, which are useful. The batteries are really what I'm looking for. But they're a little slower than the serpents, but they hit even harder. And, when it's this early on, it does take a while to knock them out. I'm not saying avoid them, but if you're just trying to dive and you see a ladder, I would probably... It depends on what time it is, but don't feel bad if you want to skip them. They also... you aggro them. Their aggro circle is kind of close, so you can get pretty close before they even wake up. Unlike the serpents, they can be off screen, and I'm not when I'm playing on a widescreen monitor, I can see the serpents and they'll be like way into the black area, and I won't even be close, and you eventually aggro them because they have such a large circle. But the the iridium bats aren't quite that way. So level 67, 1140. The iridium spawning. We're looking good. I like to put any rubies, diamonds, and iridium ore I find in the top of my bar so I can kind of keep track of it. So right now I'm blind, but we have 55 iridium ore. And this is great. This is what I was talking about. I want to smelt iridium ore into iridium bars and then sell them for 1,500 a pop. And once these runs really get going, you can make 150, 200,000 a run. So that was a prismatic shard out of, excuse me. That was a prismatic shard out of that, which was great. And we also get some more bombs from a treasure chest level. Now it's 130. I don't hit the rocks on that little floor, but like I was saying, I do recommend hitting those. Last minute positioning when you're around those mummies and a ladder spawns, you can always kind of duck around the ladder, and there we go. level 7 mining, level 5 combat, level 8 mining. The level 5 combat, I picked the profession for increased damage because that will help a lot with all of the monsters that I was talking about. So yeah, that was the first 2 days of the Skull Cavern runs, and I'm going to be doing a lot of those. They will get better eventually. I believe that mining level that I just got, I get the recipe for mega bombs, so we'll be mega bombing. We'll be using triple shot espressos and spicy eels for speed buffs, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.